First of all, welcome to the Hermes Press horror panel, premiering Kaz Windness' new, scary, funny book, Mother Goth.
Yes.
And before we begin, I'm going to introduce everybody now, and then we're going to have a short video which explains quietly, because there's no narration except me talking, what the influences are on humor in horror. Because, you know, I could talk, we could do a panel on horror, but horror isn't really as funny as this is, and horror can be funny and informative. Before we begin, we have sitting on our panel, we have Ms. Windness, Kaz Windness, the author, the creator, the artist, and the person who conceptualized this book. And you're going to see it and you're going to love it. Sitting next to her is Mr. Stan Yan, who is well known to all of you, I think, who is the creator of There's a Zombie in My Basement. Sitting next to him is Trina Robbins, who has published, I don't know, 7,500 books or something like that.
But isn't the least bit gone? What am I doing here?
You did. Well, you're going to testify and talk about horror because you know about the original horror stuff. You know, like EC.
Of course,
and you made Jack. You could talk about Jack Cole and Ghastly, if that comes up. Somebody mentioned Engels, who did the scary comic books from EC, as well as the Warren stuff that comes in, because I want to try to integrate this all together. But that stuff was actually sometimes funny, you know. I don't know if you're familiar with Johnny Craig, but he did a really neat cover where the guy just cut his wife's head off.
Oh yeah.
He's holding the head up, but that's not. It's not scary because you can't see her neck. You can just see kind
that
of.
That was Bill Gaines testifying. They had house committees about how evil comics were.
Right.
And testifying, they said, asked him, they said, well, isn't this really tasteless? He said, no, it isn't. They said, well, how can you say this is not tasteless? And he said, well, you can't see her cut neck and the blood.
Right, you can't see the blood, and he said, there's blood coming out of the mouth, and he said, just a little. Just a little. and so that's who's on our panel. But now, more importantly, let's look at the video. So, Mr. Peck, please wait. Now what we're showing you is our welcoming you to this panel. You see that says right there. And it's a history of horror in a lighter vein, get it? Okay. And it's modern goth rhymes. Now what we're showing is we're showing the history of horror in comics and humor in history. And of course, guess who that is? That's Uncle Fester. And that was drawn by Charles Adams. And can you guess who that is? That's Morticia. And that's another, and look what Morticia's walking. See, that's funny. And that's Wednesday, who is her daughter. But look at the artwork. And that's Fester. We love Fester, especially like his name. And now we're coming on Edward Gorey, and Edward Gorey is a very influential horror artist who also had a really good sense of humor. And these are Edward Gorey pieces.
People would know him if you ever watch PBS's Mystery.
Yes.
Right.
The opening segment has his original, so if it looks familiar,
The
that's
couple
where you saw
dancing
it.
and the dog.
Right, and guess who that is? That's Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Now, looking at those influences, if we have one more Tim, that's the last Tim Burton. Let's look at Kaz's. Son of a gun. Look familiar? Because horror can be funny. Just like the world we live in today, which is horror and funny.
If you didn't laugh.
And
stab.
That's one of our main characters. And then we'll get into that.
Some social commentary is having a bad day.
Remember to read the gag.
Sorry, my kids are in the room.
art speaks for itself. Now these are from the these are from the blue book. I didn't want to show you too much. Read the gags, read the poems.
Quickly.
Yes, quickly.
Fast readers only.
This is a test to see how fast you can read. And that is, okay, now we have 2 editions of this book. We have the general edition of the book that is available in stores near you. And as you can see right there, we have the limited edition, which is limited to 200 copies for Comic-Con. And when this is over, you can all run down and buy the rest of them. That being said, I'm now going to ask some questions of the panelists and get some interesting answers. And then I'm going to open it up to the floor because I always think that people in the audience have much better questions. Yes?
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to do this book?
Oh, you want to get political right away?
Get political, that's fine.
There was a recent election.
No.
So my background is children's book, and usually I can draw very funny, playful, sweet things, but I went through a period of time where I just couldn't produce the fun, sweet, playful things. I just wasn't feeling it. So I started to draw children in peril. And with the children in peril came these poems that are just dark twists on your classic nursery rhymes. And it was a cathartic thing for me to put my upset somewhere. And it just started to become a series of things. And a lot of people started asking for this to be a book. And I produced quite a few poems. And here we are.
Yes, here we are. And my managing editor, who's sitting down there, who's videoing this, liked them very much and brought them to me, and I liked them as much as she did. And hence came the book. Now, Stan, why don't you tell us what kind of stuff you do and what you think of what you're seeing?
Well, I think most people before my book came out knew me as the guy that drew you as a zombie downstairs in the exhibit hall, or My Little Pony, actually. I mean, a lot of what Kaz was producing, I'm just full disclosure, so I'm not.
So your name was? We know each other.
Yeah. I'm not objective in this matter.
That's okay, you're on
But
you don't have
we're both in the same critique group. And so I was one of the fortunate people that got to see some of these ideas first off. And well, fortunately for Kaz, we share a sense of humor. And I love these right away. And I kind of have a dark sense of humor. We actually did worry about some of the other people in our critique group that we didn't know whether shared this dark sense of humor.
It's a good way to weed people out of a critique group.
You know, you only want feedback from people that you agree with anyway, right?
That's true. I want feedback from anyone who disagrees with me. Trina, let me ask you a question. You know, historically looking at this, and we were talking about EC, and I mentioned Warren. Actually, the gags in a lot of, for instance, Engels stuff, or when Wally Wood did it, actually were funny, correct? Why don't you really tell some because they were O. Henry-esque horror stories.
Very O. Henry-esque. EC specialized in stories with O. Henry endings. But I have to correct you, the writing, it's not, I mean, Wally Wood was a wonderful artist, but the writing is Harvey Kurtzman, who was like such a brilliant guy.
And tell them what Harvey Kurtzman created in case they don't know. Mad.
Oh yeah, of course. That they called, it was subtitled Humor in a Jugular Vein.
Right. which is what's been ripped off for the title of this panel. No, I mean, you know, the thing is that classically, you can't just have pure horror without a respite, because if you just have pure horror, the person who's doing it will die. And you have to give them, you have to have comic relief.
You mentioned Engels. I remember that, you know, part of their humor was in their titles, and there was one that I always loved that takes place in the swamp, and it was called Halloween House bayou. It's just a bayou. They use wonderful puns like that, you know.
Well, and then EC Comics, of course, resulted in, well, it was mishandled at the famous hearings where they got the Comics Code, which came afterward. It was mishandled, and subsequent or after that, they didn't really have horror comics until a guy named Warren came along, and he wasn't limited by the Comics Code. And they had a lot of the people who had worked for Bill Gaines, who owned DC Comics, do horror comics. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it was eerie and creepy, and they had crypt keepers, just like the EC Comics.
Right.
Really, they were very similar to the EC Comics, with really, really good art too. And as you say, they could get away with this stuff because they were not comics code. It was really a very superior line of comics. I'm still in touch with Jim Warren. We exchange Christmas cards, and he sends the nicest cards. I mean, I just type things out, you know, I don't bother writing, but he has this wonderful kind of fancy printing he does.
So, Kaz, do you see the great tradition here?
I do, and I don't want to get off subject, but what is the Comics Code?
Oh, Comics Code was a...
I'm sorry!
The Comics Code was an agreed to censorship by, it was not imposed by the government, but it was an agreement by the comics publishers, with the exception of the biggest comic publisher, which was Western Publisher, which owned Dell Comics, that they would have a code of conduct required of all of the artists in the story. So you weren't allowed to kill anybody, you weren't allowed to shoot anybody, you weren't allowed to have any blood, you weren't allowed to have any fun.
Who wants to read that?
It really sucked.
You would see some comics where originally the person was holding a gun, and suddenly along came the Comics Code. They couldn't hold the gun, so the gun would be lighted out, but the person would still be going like this.
Holding
Yeah.
a banana.
Yeah, they would actually white it out and redraw it. Yeah, comics done.
But it wasn't just horror. They also, and I can't remember the famous story, but there was an EC story where at the end, this spaceman who's gone, and he has come to another planet with, I think it was two different aliens.
Orange and blue robots.
Orange and blue robots, and in the end he takes his helmet off, and he's black.
Right.
And then,
And he's sweating.
right, and William Gaines had so many issues after the Comic Code about, because he cut back, he was still publishing, but he wanted to publish this. It wasn't horror. When he tried to publish it, the Comic Code said, I'm sorry, you can't. He said, well, why? Well, he's sweating.
Right.
So if you take out the sweating, no, it was really because he was black.
Yeah.
And he fought, and basically they had to take out the sweating, but they still left in, he was black. It was a reprint story that was already in there. So it's not just horror. And
I mean, that gets into censorship, doesn't it? And whoever
That's what it
decides.
was.
and the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund, when the Comic Code basically went out of business, Marvel and Archie were the last ones to use it. The people running it basically donated it to the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund, and they now own it. Nobody is subject to it, but they use it to educate people on the history of comic censorship. And I just want to get back to Warren, besides creepy and eerie. They also had Vampirella, at least the first dozen issues, introducing the characters and as tongue-in-cheek.
Right, and Trina created the...
I did not create Vampirella. I
No, you
designed
didn't.
her costume.
No, we tell them the
I'm
costume.
really sick of people saying I created Vampirella. I did not. I designed her costume.
You designed
That's something.
But that's, yeah,
What is she without her costume?
but that's what everybody remembers is the costume.
Let's get back to Mother Goth's run.
So back to me.
So what do you think of all that? What do you think of all that? So look at the
No, this is
tradition
awesome.
you're in.
This is fascinating.
Yes, look at the tradition you're in. What do you? How do you
So
feel
for
now?
me, you know, this crosses, this is definitely adult novelty. Creepier kids will like it, my kids like it. My rule with the whole thing was, like, we can laugh at death or people being in peril as long as you're showing maybe the moment after or the moment before. But if you're showing the actual badness happening, that's for me where you cross a line.
Like, there's an Edward Gorey, I love Edward Gorey, and the Gashly from Tinies, which your book really does remind me of different. The one that my partner and I really love is B is for Boris, eaten by bears, and you don't see him being eaten, you just see this little kid standing there with that expression and this big bear next to him.
Right. Yeah, you show the moment before, the moment after. Then you're safe. Like, because you're not the one handing the scary stuff to someone, their imagination is creating that.
Well, that's exactly right. The best part of the original horror movies, the Universal horror movies, was they never showed you anything horrific. They left it up to your imagination, which is scarier than anything they can make in film. Now let me switch and ask you about my favorite character. You have to understand, we've actually showed you a number of her characters, and she showed you Stabby. I love Stabby. Please tell us about Stabby.
Rainbows and sunshine. He is a unicorn that is having a bad day. I don't know if he's up on screen, but we can sing the song.
Yeah, let's get
Stabby and you know it, kill your friends.
Sing along.
If you're stabby and you know it, kill your friends. If you're stabby and you know it, but you're on parole, just blow it. If you're stabby and you know it, kill your friends. It's nice, right?
Stabby.
Oh wait, that's
There. That's Stabby, isn't that Stabby?
Yeah, that's the original Stabby.
That's a Stabby concept.
He worked out in prison, and so he's a little more buff now in the book. You'll have to check that out. But yeah, that's our original Stabby.
Yeah, the thing about Mother Goth Rhymes is it is really genuinely in the tradition of Charles Adams. I mean, more than anything else. And
I still think Edward Gorey.
Yeah, well, I think Edward Gorey too.
Fight!
What do you? I mean, first of all, this is original material, and it is not in any way derivative. And I'm not saying that it is derivative. The point is that when you look at any of the comic artists from the Golden Age or Silver Age, you're going to see Milton Caniff, you're going to see Alex Raymond, you're going to see Roy Crane, you're going to see those influences in the artwork. That doesn't mean they copied them, although there were ones that did copy them, like Michelle Moloff. That's another matter. But the point is that because you're influenced by somebody and you take it to another level, it's a good thing, not a bad thing.
Well, for me, it's a love letter. And when people say that my work reminds me of someone, that's high compliment to me. And I don't feel like I'm, taking. I feel like I'm celebrating and adding my own something to it. In a way, it's like channeling, like, bringing in something that's a history of.
What do you think, Stan?
It's like a love letter, but with a restraining order.
Did you just come up with that now? Oh my God.
Trademark it.
And that's only because of that restraining order we had for a while, but we're over that hump.
Well, it's still like, what, 2
Right.
feet?
Did you actually get a restraining order? You know what else it reminds me of? And again, I never think they're copying it, they're homages. A series of unfortunate events with
Yes.
the door.
Yes.
Lemony Snicket.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a fan of all those.
We also put in the promo, we put in Tim Burton. Tim Burton is obviously much more contemporary, as opposed to, Gorey's pretty contemporary actually, but he's, I think, the most contemporary in terms of chronologically speaking. And he was obviously influenced by everybody we're talking about. And it's very clear. His point of view is what makes it interesting. And your point of view is what makes it interesting, because you're looking at reality through a lens, and then you're translating it into your art. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Where did I go to?
Oh,
And
well,
asking that their question.
right. Where do I start with that? I'm not sure how to answer that. Can you phrase that again?
Can I phrase that again? Counselor, can you ask the question again? The lens that you look through, what's the thing that inspires you to come up with your rhymes and your point of view? What are we looking at? In the back of your head.
Oh, when I'm twisting things around my
Yeah.
head. Well, I think I'm just running dark all the time anyway. Like even this week, we're down at a beautiful beach house. I'm looking out at the ocean, and I'm imagining that there's an earthquake somewhere way out in the ocean, and what it would be like for a huge tsunami to come and kill us all. And exactly how far in is the tsunami going to come? Like, I can take pretty much any situation and see the worst case scenario. So for me, it's like therapy or cathartic to just like imagine it and go there and put a funny twist on it. If we can laugh at it, then we can deal with it. So that's, you know, that. If you're talking about the lens, it's probably because I need therapy and I need medication and I, you know, drawing and making jokes and having a dark sense of humor, it is in a way therapy, it is dealing. I'm sure everyone in the audience, like, it's coping mechanism, am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is why we get along, because I was actually thinking of all the different ways that this con could go bad for me and end for me. So actually the night before I got here, I was in Vegas and I was dreaming about getting hit by one of those forklifts before the convention opens. So.
Creative
That's
death.
a really neat dream. I'll have to remember that. I'll have to take some more meds before I go to bed so I don't have that dream.
Kaz, your next book is your experiences through your lens of Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Through the lens of Comic-Con.
Through your lens of what your experience is.
Oh, yeah. Well, I try to keep my head down here. And the other weird thing about me, full disclosure, is that, you know, whether you believe or not, I don't need you to believe, I also see spirits. I see ghosts, I see creepy stuff. So it's another layer of me processing what it is I'm seeing and putting it in a context that I'm sharing it, but not sharing it in a way that I feel fully exposed, like being vulnerable about that. I'm like in the context of let's talk about ghosts, let's talk about the idea that, you know, energy continues on and what might that be like?
Well, now let me hit Trina up. Hey, Trina, anything? Now we've talked about the 50s, and we've talked about the 60s, which is when Warren did this stuff, through the 70s. But now I'm going to throw you another interesting one. Remember when they began to have the horror resurgence in the late 60s, 70s, when you had Bernie Wrightson?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And of course, he was an enormous EC fan.
Right, and Marv Wolf, and Marv Wolfman, and Kaluta, and all those artists that were actually doing actually very excellent horror comic books for DC Comics. Why don't you tell us a little bit, and which had a sense of humor. Marv could write, because he's still around. We had him on our panel 2 years ago, and we were doing a Bernie Wrightson book. But the point is, why don't you tell us a little bit about, you know, going into that period, because that was a very, I think, productive period for reappearance of the genre. Am I wrong? The reappearance of that genre.
I have to be honest and say I wasn't that fond of Swamp Thing.
I didn't say Swamp Thing, but
I wasn't a big DC fan at all until Alan Moore took over Swamp Thing. You know, and I wasn't. My partner Steve works in comics, and because he was doing work for DC, they would send him cartons of comics, most of which I had total contempt for and did not read. And he shows up in the room where I was working with holding up a copy of Swamp Thing, and I said, "Oh, please." And he said, no, it's different this time. And that was the first Alan Moore I'd ever read. And it was, oh my God, this is brilliant.
And tell us who Alan Moore is. I mean,
Oh yeah, of course, I'm acting as though everybody knows.
No, Alan Moore. Yeah,
He's a British writer. He's a British writer and brilliant writer. What else can I say?
Well, I mean, he created Watchmen.
Yeah, oh my God,
He created Watchmen. He created The Extraordinary Gentleman. He created V for Vendetta.
Yeah.
So you all know that. And if you don't, I just told you. And he has a very, very good sense of humor as well. And actually, he looks like one of Kaz's characters.
Oh, which one?
He has a long beard, and he looks like Rasputin. Does he look like Rasputin?
No. Rasputin is a little stringier. He looks like
Ask her as if she remembers Rasputin. Like,
Trina and I and Rasputin used to go out drinking. Lots of vodka.
you think I see weird things. Not Rasputin.
Is everybody enjoying this so far?
Yeah, well, also you're talking about Swamp Thing and Alan Moore. Well, you're mixing in comedy and humor with the horror, but he also mixed in politics and religion.
Oh, yes.
Where the famous issue where he had Swamp Thing go back in time and meet Jesus, and he was, well, originally going to be the cross, and DC didn't like that. And that was a political thing and a religious thing, and he really pushed it, but using horror to get those ideas apart. Yeah.
So
He was also very much into the tarot. It still is, not was, but is. And he would put that in a lot of his books.
So let me ask you, folks, are we delivering on the way we describe the panel? What do you think? Now comes my favorite part. No, I'm not leaving.
Is it the hokey pokey?
I can do the hokey pokey. No, my favorite part is I open it up for questions from the audience. Does anybody want to ask anybody on the panel questions? Please say yes. Anybody?
Give us some questions.
Yeah, come on, let's have some questions. Somebody.
Yeah.
Mr. T.
Here?
Yeah, whatever.
talking to the
wherever
mic.
makes you comfortable.
Yeah, hi. Great work. I'm an animation producer. Daniel knows that.
Yes.
And I worked with Bernie. He was at my studio for a year. But anyway, have you ever given any thought to anything beyond the short rhyme for this concept?
Yeah, absolutely.
And?
Well, I have a few darker middle grade novels in progress. My agent Tim is standing right behind you. He's my whip cracker. So yeah, some longer books. I'm especially drawn to the middle grade. I find myself in the shoes of a 12-year-old girl and her experiences with opening up to the unseen and scarier world. So yeah, those are different things that I have brewing.
And so are they in the horror vein, or?
More on the scary, more on the spooky, more on the Sabrina. Yeah, well, Sabrina. Witchy, woo-woo, spooky. Mm-hmm. Did you have suggestions for me? We're talking to Tim.
Well, yeah, I'm a producer. I always have suggestions.
Yeah.
But no, I was just curious if you just saw this as a short thing, if you were a life beyond your 4 lines of.
Yeah, right now these are just poems, but yes, I am a storyteller.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let me ask you this. You know, there's been the use of this type of, and I won't say storytelling, but in animation. What kind of animation have you been attracted to? Because I mean, a lot of animations come out throughout history.
Well, I'm a big fan of anything stop animation. I love all the Neil Gaiman stuff. It's like the box trolls and no, that's not Neil Gaiman, but anything that's stop animation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I just love that stuff.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
You're both talking about how you like Lemony Snicket and a series of unfortunate events, and I was wondering if you have listened to the album that was put out by Stephen Merritt that was supposed to accompany the books.
No, so you could listen to.
It's the same like the magnetic fields, it's the same artist behind it, but it's really
Really?
great. You should
No,
listen to it.
I will have to look that up. That sounds awesome. I mean, I did see the Netflix. A series of unfortunate events, and I read all the books, but no, I didn't know there was an album. Thank you.
How about some more questions? Yes, sir.
I love your book.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
I wasn't a fan of Goth at all until I read your book this week, so.
Wow, we've converted you. We have a follower. Can I get a hallelujah?
Will you do anything towards the male Goth now?
Yeah, that is something I thought about in the book. I wanted to show diversity. I mean, I tend to put myself in the shoes of a young white girl who's experiencing, supernatural events, but I really wanted to show diversity. I wanted to show both male and female characters and people of color. I don't think there's enough of that in the Goth genre, and I think we're being, educated that we do need to expand, because, the pale, the trope is the pale, black hair. So yeah, absolutely. And I'd like to talk to you later about male goth ideas. I feel like you have something brewing in there.
Kaz, one of the things that I really like in the book is that it's kind of equal opportunity destroying. The one where how much is that baby in the window? The witch is about to eat an adorable African American baby. So yes, they can be tormented and eaten too.
Well, yeah, who was I going to kill today? I was really not trying to be out for particularly. I'm trying to be out for all the
I have a question.
I mean, I'll be tormented and eaten too, and I think that's a good.
Nobody, actually there's only one home in the book where, she's just having a bad day. Son, go away, no one likes you anyway. Everybody else dies. Just full disclosure right now. Everyone else dies. And she dies eventually, I'm not sure of what, but yeah, everyone does.
One of the, besides the artists mentioned up here, are there any artists, writers that influenced you that we haven't talked about?
What we haven't talked about.
I mean, what about writers? Is there any writers that influenced you? Because you do the artwork, but you're also coming up with different rhymes and putting the whole thing together. Was there any writers that you loved to read growing up? Or
Well, I mean, as far as like my heroes, I met Maurice Sendak forever. That's really what got me into the whole thing. I was maybe 4 years old in kindergarten, and all the other kids were really into 101 Dalmatians. Someone showed me that picture with the Max and the monsters, and I'm like, that right there, that's what I want. That's me. And 15 minutes. Ooh, yeah.
But that's really fascinating because actually there's a very good corollary to Maurice Sendak's. I don't know
Stop. His buddy Maurice. Go on.
I mean, Sendak's sensibility is very similar to the point of view in your book. I mean, it's very similar. In fact, not to get off, but I got a pitch, and I in a very nice way said, you need a hook, like look at Sendak's stuff. And the guy looked at me with this kind of what's my imagining it was. I got this blank look, and I said, no, look at, here's how you spell it. Go look it up. You know what I mean? But you're right, because that's very, very. You can see that flavor in them.
Yeah, absolutely. Not everybody's having a good day. Not everything turns out okay.
Like real life.
Yeah, like real life. And how about we learn about that as kids? Don't sugarcoat it. Life is tough, and we get through it though.
Right. Any other questions? Oh, good. Oh, Mr. Tom. You better watch out, because what this guy.
I like him.
No, let me tell you something. You better watch out, because what this guy's going to do is he's going to make an animated. He's going to make an animated feature using your stuff. I'm serious. I can see that coming.
I'm making this my private panel. Gahan Wilson. Do you know his work?
Yes.
Okay, he used to be.
I have some homework to do.
Well, he was in Playboy. He was kind of the follow-up to Charles Adams. He did really everything in Playboy. Believe it or not, it wasn't about sex or half-naked girls. It was.
No, I read it for the articles.
No, but these were actually scary, creepy things, very much like this. And when I was just around the time I was running Marvel Animation in the early '90s, before you were born.
What? I love him so much. Whatever you want to do.
That's great.
But we did an animated short that was based on Gahan Wilson's artwork, and it was called Diner. And it was supposed to be this whole thing that was running before Fox movies and everything, and they just didn't know what to do with it at the time. It was wrong. But it seems like there's I see a connection to what you do in his stuff. Trina can tell you, or I'm sorry to be familiar with you like that, but
He's brilliant.
yeah.
I'm thinking right now about the one he did I don't know if it was in Playboy. I think really it was in National Lampoon, because he also drew for them. The one, it's in the future, and the Earth people are going as tourists to, I think it was Mars, maybe it was Venus. And the poor Venusians, they're so pathetic, you know. The Earth people have killed off most of them with their diseases, and they have the big sad eyes, and they're sitting by the roadside selling pathetic little handmade souvenirs. And the Earth people are laughing, and they're horrible, and they're throwing their gum wrappers and their hot dog wrappers. And it was just really powerful.
Yeah, no, he had the same thing. You have an ability to distill the image down to what it needs to speak to, and he was like that, because all he did was single panel cartoon.
Right.
He didn't really do many continuities.
No, this was a whole continuity.
Oh, he did some, but mostly he was known for...
I'm sure it was for Lampoon. He used to do the one about the kid, which I'm sure was his childhood memories. The kid was always overdressed, you know, just, you know, too many layers of clothes by a protective mother, you know, going out and he's looking like a total, you know.
You know, Trudy, it sounds to me like you read the Martian Chronicles before you did.
Oh, yes, the Martian Chronicles. Well, that one he did about the wretched Venusians and the horrible Earth people.
Exactly.
Totally influenced.
That's right out of the Martian Chronicles.
Of course.
Exactly. Any other questions? Oh, good. Come on.
You are adorable.
Oh, thank you.
The whole thing.
Thanks. So going back to your previous response about kind of being a woman in this sort of dark humor genre, do you have any advice or thoughts, or any of you for that matter?
Stay creepy.
Yeah, on how to initiate a young girl into that kind of world?
Initiation.
If there needs to be an initiation.
So first we cast a circle, and we're going to need a blood sacrifice, or wine is fine. Oh, she's gone. That was a good enough answer.
Any questions from anybody back there? Okay, go ahead.
This one's kind of for everybody. You've talked about like your horror influences. Who are your humor influences? As far as like Mad Magazine, or like, you know, comedians, or like sketch comedy.
I was formed
Calvin and Hobbes.
I was formed by Mad Comics. Lee Mars, who was a cartoonist and was an underground cartoonist of my generation, said that it was Harvey Kurtzman who wrote Mad Comics, who caused us all to become hippies. Because reading Mad Comics taught you to laugh at authority. That's what it was all about. So we grew up laughing at authority, and look what has become of us.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this is the year that they stopped publishing new material from Mad Magazine.
In fact, that's a question I want to ask everybody on the panel, because I think it's relevant to what you're doing and to what we're all experiencing. I mean, this is, you know, the 50th anniversary of landing on the moon, and it's also the Mad Magazine. And people, and as Trina's pointed out, there's this guy named Harvey Kurtzman. If you haven't heard of him, go look him up on Google when you get done, because Harvey Kurtzman was one of the true, people throw around the word genius. He was an artist who happened to work in comics, and he was way ahead of his time, and he did war comics that made you hate war. Although you didn't know that when you were reading them. I mean, this was back in 1951 when you didn't do comics like that. So he was way ahead of his time and very controversial, and kept doing things for a long time. And he had a problem where he couldn't stand still and didn't like people messing around with him. But he created Mad Magazine, and then it was taken over by a guy named Al Felstein. And Al Felstein was a journeyman.
He was good, but he was no Kurtzman.
Right, he was very good, and he could get people to do things on time. And his stuff was more, pardon me, but mediocre.
Yes, it was.
He didn't have the cutting edge or the genius that Kurtzman had, and he hated Kurtzman's guts for it. But, and I knew Al Felstein, so I can say that.
Well, I knew Harvey, so I can say.
Yeah. So, how does everybody feel on the panel?
I knew Rasputin.
Yeah. And, how does everybody on the panel feel about Mad Magazine, who influenced everybody, I believe, in our generation? How does everybody feel about Mad coming to an end?
It feels sad. I mean, it is the end of something. I think it's ended indicative of, I mean, we're all on social media, we're sharing memes, that's how we transfer our humor, and it's also mostly a free medium, and some things are in transition, and maybe that's just evident of, you know, print materials sort of going a different direction. Some of it is really strong, but some of it isn't.
What do you think, Stan?
I'm definitely sad about it. I mean, I always felt that Mad Magazine was, it was something that I really loved. It's like candy. I couldn't eat it all at once, so it lasted for a while. But there was like so much genius, not just the writing, but there were all these different artists that definitely influenced me as a caricature artist to
And
this
the
day.
political commentary, which I
Right.
think is important, and you know what's going on in New York Magazine, and I don't know, it brings up a question mark to me. Why is it going away?
Because it's not profitable anymore. It's too expensive to produce it because of all of the various elements of producing something that complicated for the artists and the writers and production issues. And because the company that owns it, which is Warner Communications, just doesn't really care about that anymore. It's part of their universe that they want to create, and it's not relevant as far as they're concerned financially.
Because it's not guys with big chins punching each other out.
Exactly, exactly, that's exactly right. And it's the unfortunate side. And you know, back in the good old days, you would have publishers publish stuff because they thought it was important. Gaines did that. Gaines published stuff that lost money. The best stuff that he did, William Gaines, was his science fiction comics, which didn't make money. He used all the horror comics, which made a lot of money, to subsidize the weird science and weird fantasy, which were the two great science
Those were my two favorites, weird science and weird fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been when you have enlightened publishers who will, you know, take what they think are very good projects and publish them, and then use more profitable projects to subsidize them, because that's what publishing is about. And not to, you know, tell you how great Hermes Press is we've been doing that for 18 years. I will take projects where I feel they have a lot of merit, whereas sometimes they're not as financially successful as they should be. And we take the money from very financially successful projects, which I like too, and we use them to subsidize or underwrite them, because that's what really being a publisher is all about. It's not just making money. We like money. We like to make money. We want you all to run down to our booth and you want to buy this book, buy the limited edition. We really want you to do that. But the thing is that the truth is, you know, I wouldn't do the book if I really didn't like it and I didn't have a lot of confidence in it. And she knows that, and I think everybody that works for our company knows that. It's very important that we produce
Yeah, you guys have been great to work with, and
Thank you.
I think we created a product that we're all very proud of.
And we're doing more. You and I are doing more stuff.
But I understand.
Yes, well, we do. So, any other questions? Because there was one back there, and I don't want to cut you off. Somebody said there was somebody back there that had a question. Are you sure you don't
One
want
of
to
you
ask a question?
guys, one of the twins had a question, yes.
I just wanted to know how you came up with Stabby.
I think Stabby is, I mean, everything's a little bit autobiographical, right? So, I mean, part of me feels that I'm more of a rainbow goth, or, you know, because I think you can be happy, and I get, but just some days you're just not having, you're not like full happy rainbow unicorn, and you just kind of want to poke someone. I mean, why did God give you the horn if it wasn't to stab someone with, right?
And that is available on her site as a t-shirt, right?
I do have a red bubble shop.
And as swag, next year we're going to have the stabby horn available. You have to put them on top of your head.
And you can go around and stab your friends.
Yes, but there'll be a disclaimer that we're not responsible for anything that happens with the stabby horn.
You need to do a
Do you have a question?
Stabby blush, yes.
Answer my question. When are we getting stabby?
Stabby is a blush. I think we need to discuss. Yes. That's on my bingo. I have a bingo. Oh, I think we're going. I have a bingo chart, and plush is on that chart. So we need to get that square taken.
Oh, you have a comment?
Trina, how many women were in comics when you started? And Kaz, how do you feel about being on the same platform as Trina
Oh,
now.
I'm honored, and you were just so sweet, and I just,
You are so sweet.
Pardon me, I have to leave.
I love you.
I am delighted to meet you, Kaz. I'm so happy, and
it's an honor.
We'll be friends forever.
John, you've all heard it here. Can't back out now.
Did you think how many women were in comics when I started?
Yes.
None.
Well,
No, comics were, well, okay, there was Marie Severin.
There was,
Ramona
well,
French.
and
You know, because they had the amazing ability to draw superheroes. Because women are not particularly fond, as I have said before, of guys with big chins punching each other.
But there was also 4 of them in the 40s.
You remember Dale
Oh,
Messi?
yeah, but he said when I started.
Oh, okay, that's
You had the ones that started before you that you still.
No, he wanted to know how many women were in comics when I
That's true.
started.
That's
That
exactly
was
what I had.
And actually, Trina, you were in comics. I mean, you were doing that stuff.
Yes. Not in the 40s, though.
I know.
No, I'm telling you that at that point, I mean, okay, the underground was different. You know, I started in the underground in '66, and nobody said you can't draw because you're a girl. You know, that was different. But in mainstream comics, it was all superheroes.
You know, I remember, that you're saying that Ramona French did Metamorpho in 1965, and Marie Severin, who had worked as the staff colorist at EC, had gone to work for Marvel, and I believe Stan Lee started using her. I need the wrong.
He started using her to draw comics in 1966.
And that's what I was
When Esquire, I can tell you the whole story. Before that, what was she doing? They had her erasing other artists' pencil lines and making corrections. This incredibly artist. So along comes Esquire.
Women can draw.
Let me finish talking. This is a great story. Esquire wants to do something about Marvel Comics because it was a renaissance, So they said, well, we'd like, some of you guys to draw illustrations for the article we're publishing in Esquire. Well, none of the guys wanted to do it. They were too busy drawing the fucking Hulk. So Marie says, I'll do it. And she does this fabulous art for the Esquire article.
Exactly.
And Martin Goodman sees it.
Martin Goodman was the publisher of Marvel.
And he says to Stan Lee, she can draw real good. Use her. And that's how she wound up doing comics.
I remember that. All right, I thought we were about any questions?
Are we almost done?
I've
got 2 questions.
Just wrap up one more.
Oh, 2 minutes?
How long?
Just do it.
Now it's 1 minute.
Okay,
Go, Tim, go.
So I have 2 questions. One, it's really, Dan can answer it. Trina, Kaz, do they have any signings here at the show?
Well, yes. Sabrina, could you say when the signings are, please?
I'm so glad you asked.
Yes, thank you for
It
asking.
just occurred to me.
Let me get my list. Trina will be tomorrow on Saturday from 4 to 5 for her Babes in Arms at booth 1821. Kaz will be at our booth 1821 after this panel, and then Saturday we're not letting her leave the booth. But 12 to 1, 3 to 4, and 5 to 6.
And just if you're curious, I'm at my
I don't have his schedule.
It's booth or table K14, which is in the small press down aisle row 1400.
Sorry, Sam.
Oh, no.
The second question is, just starting with Trina, working your way down, briefly, what are you working on next?
I have a book coming from Hermes Press later this year. As many of you know, I write histories of early 20th century women cartoonists who were like super incredible artists and superstars, but have been forgotten because the guys just want to write about Stanley and Jack Kirby. So this is a book about Gladys Parker, who was an amazing cartoonist who drew a character named Mopsy from 1937 to 1965, which was the year before she died. She only stopped drawing it because she was too ill to draw it anymore. and who also happened to me to look exactly like her character, Mopsy, and there was no coincidence, and they were both beautiful. And she also had, she was a fashion designer. She had a line of high-end clothing that she sold throughout the 1930s at high-end department stores. And by 1940, she packed up her 2 black cats and moved to Hollywood, where she designed clothes for movie stars like Arthur Stanwyck, Dorothy Lamour, Joan Crawford, and I could go on, but everybody else has to talk too. But if you come to the table, there are cards, free cards, and you can even see the galleys, the very, very rough galleys.
Yes, very rough.
Right now, a big round of applause, please.
Dan, quick, what are you working on next?
So, I'm currently in the process. My agent is soliciting some projects featuring my zombie girl from There's a Zombie in the Basement called Salem Charter Academy. And so hopefully that'll be in production at some point in the not too distant
Hey,
future.
Stan, have him call me.
Okay.
I mean, I'm shy.
All right.
I'm working on a few things, including a Halloween book about a Halloween unicorn. And some other books, working on something called Alligator Roller Skater, about a roller derby alligator, which is very fun. And I'm on all the social media, so just find me and I'll tell you more there.
Well, thank you all very, very much.